Hi, my name's Ashley from Furious. I'm here to talk you through HubSpot Operations Hub datasets. I'm going to walk you through 3 common examples that we encounter on a regular basis on how datasets can combat a lot of reporting complications that organizations tend to encounter. The first one I'll be walking you through is new business and how you can extrapolate gross figure. So in this example here, I already have a new business gross figure demo dataset to showcase. So navigating to here, all we need to do is go to edit, and you'll see that through the use of actually creating a custom field or a custom conditional field, we can actually go down the route of creating a custom formula. As you can see here, I have gross figure. All we're simply doing is extrapolating the amount of the deal, and we're deducting the total cost of the sale to then determine our gross figure. In datasets itself, we can easily incorporate the actual fields we want to include in our reporting, which means those downstream users can have a dedicated dataset for them to report from, which means it can extrapolate just the key information, removing all of the jargon and the noise associated with deals. So for example, in this instance for our report, we solely want to include the cost of the sale, the amount of the deal, and then we have our gross figure. This means when we go down the route of reporting, we will solely have those actual properties to include in our custom report. As mentioned, that then removes all of the noise associated with all of the other properties typically associated with a deal. So in this instance, our formula is a simple deduction. And as you can see here in our preview data, we've taken the cost of the sale, which is £25. We have the total amount of the deal, £175, resulting in our gross figure of £150. As mentioned, this is a common occurrence of organizations trying to find a way of calculating this, which typically would result in either a custom calculation property that is solely used for that report. When you go down the route of custom data sets, it actually enables users to actually easily identify their key properties and then solely use those for the reports they require. Now, another one we tend to encounter on a regular basis is how we can actually identify EMEA within our data. So as you're aware, HubSpot solely captures the country and region, as well as something like the city. What we're able to do through data sets is actually pre-populate an EMEA property, which will actually identify what the existing country associated to a contact and company is, to then populate what that value is. So if I go into edit, just to showcase how this would work, in this instance, we've created a conditional field. Conditional fields enable us to then start applying the conditions of if and then and else. So as you can see here in my example, all I've simply done is stipulated if the company country contains any of the applicable countries. We've simply stipulated in the instance that the country contains any of those values. We then want to populate our custom field to then stipulate what the actual EMEA value would be. So another one here would be if the country contains United Kingdom, Ireland, France, Spain, so all of our European countries, the then statement would stipulate Europe. Additionally, we can add a conditional logic to actually exclude any countries that aren't applicable in EMEA. So as you can see here, in the instance of United States, we then want to stipulate outside of EMEA. Now, as you can see here in our preview data, as you can see, when we've actually stipulated the country's United Kingdom, we've actually stipulated the EMEA location to be Europe. So as mentioned, to actually avoid the need of creating workflows to actually write this logic to a property, which is solely going to be used for reporting purposes, we can actually create a custom data set and use formulas to actually run those calculations for us. So it actually minimizes the amount of work involved, and it makes the solution more scalable and easier to manage. Now, another common example we tend to encounter is in the space of independent software vendors. Organizations might actually be aware of, let's say, the potential growth opportunity within an organization. So if we just take the example of an independent software vendor, they've actually identified the total number of users within an organization, and they've actually identified the total number of licenses currently sold into that organization. What they may want to then do is actually calculate the potential growth potential within that organization. So if I go into my actual data set here to give you context, as you can see here, we've included in our data set fields the company name, the licenses sold, the number of users, and the cost per license. However, what this doesn't enable us to do is actually identify the potential growth within that account itself. So making use of HubSpot's datasets, in the instance here, if I go to license growth potential, you can see all we've done is actually taken the unsold licenses available and times that by cost per license. To actually make the unsold licenses available, we've just created a custom field. We've stipulated the total number of users, deduct the number of licenses sold. So in this example here, if we know that an organization has a total of 100 users, however, we've already sold 20 licenses into that company, we know that there's a potential growth of additional 80 seats. That means if we then calculate that based on the cost per license, we can then identify the potential growth into that account if we were to sell the total number of users into that account. So as you can see here in my preview data, company example here is Furious. So we've currently sold 20 licenses as mentioned. There's a potential growth of 100 licenses, so the total number of users, and the cost per license is £12. Therefore, the unsold licenses would be 80 times 12 to a total of £960. Again, this is a means of using data sets to actually start enabling forecasting functionality and actually not have to create things like workarounds through the use of things like calculation properties and workflows. simply means that we can actually put our data together so that the operations teams or any downstream teams or users have a dedicated data set for them to report from. Additionally, in data sets themselves, if I navigate to the filter tab here, we can apply some filters taken from any of the actual objects used. So in this example, companies, contacts, and deals. So in the instance, we know the total number of licenses sold, then include that actual record into our data set itself. Now, when I go down the actual route of previewing and updating, and then providing I've saved this, we can actually use any of these data sets to then make custom reports so that the users actually handling that data set, as mentioned, isn't confused by all of the noise with the additional unused properties. So if I now go down the route of building a report, it enables us then to actually simply use the fields associated to our data set. So as you can see here, if I use the licenses growth potential and we use that as our y-axis and then the company name as our x-axis, you'll then start to identify the growth potential into these accounts. So for reporting purposes, we can quickly identify what accounts we can focus our attentions on. Again, these are just 3 common examples we encounter on a regular basis. There's a whole wealth of functionality available within datasets. So if you do have any specific requirements or queries, please do let us know.